Wear a mask or cloth face covering when going to the grocery store. Before going into the store, give your hands a good squirt with a sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Before you touch your card, wipe it down with an antiseptic wipe. Most stores are now offering wipes for this purpose. While you're in the store, stay at least 6 feet away from other shoppers. While you're in the store, touch as few things as possible. Touch only what you buy. Remember to avoid touching your face. At the checkout, stand away from the cashier, and if possible, use the card tap option to pay for items. After leaving the store, give your hands a good squirt with a sanitizer again that contains at least 60% alcohol. When you get home, remove your mask or face covering the correct way. Avoid touching mouth, nose, and eyes. Wash your hands immediately after removing. Rinse your produce. It's always a good idea, even when there's no pandemic, to rinse fresh fruit and vegetables with water to remove dirt, debris, and pesticides, and reduce levels of foodborne germs. Don't use soap on your produce. There's no need to use soap or chemical disinfectants on your produce. Wash your hands again after you unpack your groceries. Wash reusable bags. If you use reusable grocery bags, you should wash them after a trip to the store, either by putting them in the laundry for cloth bags or using soap or other disinfectants for plastic bags.
This is a message from the government of Bermuda.
Good afternoon, Bermuda. Would like to start this evening by speaking directly to the families who have lost loved ones in recent weeks to COVID-19, and to those who have contracted the virus and are fighting to overcome it. The thoughts and prayers of our island are with you as you grieve for your loved one. As a government, we will continue to work hard to manage the spread and reduce the impact of this disease. For those of you who have contracted and are battling the virus, we send you well wishes for a full and speedy recovery. Today, we will have an update from the Minister of Health on matters related to COVID-19, from the Minister of National Security on matters related to our current shelter in place, and the Minister of Education will give an update on the work that is being done in his ministry to continue the learning process for our children. Minister of Health.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin my remarks tonight by reminding everyone that the future health of Bermuda is in our hands. While we cannot fully predict what will happen regarding transmission in our community, our actions today will determine whether we succeed or fail in our fight against COVID-19. Before saying more about what we can do in our collective fight against COVID-19, I will present today's update on the testing results. Today, there were 35 test results received, 2 were positive, and 33 were negative. Thankfully, there were no additional hospitalizations, and there were no reported deaths. With these 2 new cases, Bermuda's local confirmed positive cases is now at 83, and the status of those are as follows. There are 43 active cases, of which 34 persons are under active public health monitoring, and 9 persons are hospitalized, and a total of 35 persons have now fully recovered, and the total deceased remains at 5. The average age of all of the confirmed positive cases is 56. The median age is 58, and the age range of all of our positive cases is between 18 and 91 years. The age of persons hospitalized ranges between 67 and 82 years, and the average age of those is 74. Out of the 83 positive cases that are confirmed to date, 37 are males and 46 are females. As a follow-up to developments at the nursing home facility that we spoke about yesterday, the Ministry of Health staff is implementing an outbreak management plan in collaboration with the board of directors of that nursing facility. This plan includes providing additional necessary PPE, instructions on the proper use, assuring adequate nursing care, and medical oversight of the residents and the staff. I can confirm that the legislation governing the regulation of care homes has now been amended to prohibit staff from working at multiple facilities when the chief medical officer determines that there is a risk of spreading a communicable disease. We are fully conscious of the challenges associated with this measure, but it is necessary right now to save lives. I have to extend a special thanks to the staff who are bravely and selfishly taking care of the residents in our care home facilities. Theirs is a courageous sacrifice to this country, and we must, as a country, recognize and salute them. It is the frontline workers such as them who are the heroes of this crisis. Knowing how valuable seniors and other at-risk populations are with respect to this pandemic, I have to remind us that we are all being called upon to do the right thing for others. Collectively, we have a responsibility to work together to stop the spread of the virus and to keep our island homes safe, especially for those in our community who are the most vulnerable. Staying in our homes is indeed an interruption to our lifestyles, but more importantly, it is an interruption to the transmission of this virus. Another way to help to slow the spread of COVID-19 is the use of cloth face coverings. And as I have said previously, the Ministry of Health recommends wearing cloth face coverings in any public setting in addition to other social distancing measures, for example, grocery stores, gas stations, and pharmacies. A simple cloth face covering can also help prevent people who may not know that they have the virus from transmitting it to others. We are encouraged that there are many people that are wearing and making face cloth coverings in their homes, which is not costly and can be used as an additional voluntary health measure. Thank you to everyone in our community who is making these homemade face coverings. I've seen a wide variety of attractive and well-made face coverings, and this is another way that we as a community can work together to promote and protect Bermuda in particular as it relates to the transmission of COVID-19. Instructions on how to make the cloth mask coverings can be found on coronavirus.gov.bm. In closing, continuing social distancing, hand and respiratory hygiene, and always to wear a mask in public places are critically important. Individuals who have respiratory symptoms or other symptoms that they think may be related to COVID-19 should be in contact by telephone with their family physician for advice and management. They should remain isolated in their homes from others as best as possible until medical and/or public health advice confirm that they can end the isolation period. I strongly encourage everyone to please abide by the shelter-in-place guidelines. Take these seriously. We are all responsible for our actions, and we must follow the public health advice, in order for us to stay in our own homes and to stay safe. And this is what will make the biggest difference for our survival as a community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Will. Over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic, the government has listened to our medical experts, taken lessons from countries that have been successful in flattening the curve, and worked swiftly to protect the people who have become challenged economically. We have listened to, and when necessary, adapted to changing circumstances, implemented recommendations from those of all walks of life that truly and deeply care about Bermuda. Tomorrow, Bermuda's Parliament will meet for the first time in history in a virtual meeting via WebEx, an internet-based video conferencing app. This will enable the people's business to be conducted while still maintaining best adhering to shelter-in-place and social distancing guidelines. I would like to thank the Speaker of the House, his staff at the legislature, and also the team at the Department of Information and Digital Technologies for working to get this ready for tomorrow so that we'll be able to remain safe while conducting the people's business. Tomorrow's meeting is necessary as the approval of Parliament is required to extend our state of emergency. What is important to note is that though we predict that the shelter in place will end on May 2nd, there will be a need to continue some form of restrictions for the foreseeable future. In other countries, they do not need to declare a state of emergency to restrict movement during a public health crisis. But in Bermuda, this is the only way to do so. The public health modeling that we currently have predicts that we will need to have strict social distancing for the foreseeable future. So the Cabinet has resolved that we must make amendments to laws that will allow any government in the future to implement appropriate measures in the case of a future public health emergency such as the one we're experiencing right now, without the need to have to declare a state of emergency. This evening, we would wanted to detail the full changes that are going to be put in place for next week's shelter in place. However, these changes have not yet been completed legislatively, and we do not want there to be any confusion between what is said here and what is reflected fully in the law. So we're going to wait to make sure that we can read from the newly updated law so that everyone will have a full and complete update tomorrow. But as I have indicated over the last 2 days, there will be some changes. All the changes that are being made are in line with social distancing. The purpose of the shelter-in-place order is to minimize the interactions between persons in different households to minimize transmission that could spread this outbreak further than what it has spread already. However, recognizing that it has been extended for a future 2 weeks, and certain persons may not have been ready to be sheltered in place for a full 4 weeks, there are going to be some additional businesses that will be allowed to be open. There will be limited allowances for hardware stores, as we want persons who are at home who want to make sure they can have the opportunity to make any upgrades to their house and make use of the time. Plant nurseries, in case you want to plant some items in your garden or start, to help us to better enhance our food security in Bermuda. There will be limited allowances for pet stores as well, as we recognize certain persons may have only had allowances for 2 weeks of pet food, and we want to make sure that our pets are taken care of. And certainly, as I've mentioned before, laundromats, as it is important and recognizing that not all persons in Bermuda are privileged to have a washer and dryer in their house, and we're going to make sure that we can find a way that minimizes the risk but allows persons to have access to those particular services. Additionally, as we're looking to promote delivery services on island, the Minister of National Security is also drafting up guidelines to enhance the use or expand the use of Bermuda's taxis to help enhance delivery services which are taking place on island right now. Many of our taxi drivers have subscribed to the unemployment benefit, as clearly there is a minimal amount of movement that's allowed by taxi drivers, and this is a move to allow some economic activity for those taxi drivers while making sure that we continue to maintain our social distancing. As I had said, Minister Keynes will be giving a full update tomorrow on those particular guidelines, but right now Minister Keynes will give an update on the Ministry of National Security. Minister?
Thank you, Premier, and good evening, Bermuda. The Royal Bermuda Regiment, in partnership with the Bermuda Police Service, recorded a total of 11,165 stops over a 24-hour period. Of these, 53 were advised to return home, and 1 attempted to evade the checkpoint. The Royal Bermuda Regiment are reminding the public to please have their documentation on hand before departing home or work in order to avoid delays at the checkpoint. The Coast Guard continue to maintain a daily presence on Bermuda's waters. However, it is concerning that we are seeing an increase of unauthorized pleasure craft on the water. Bermuda, the shelter-in-place guidelines extend to our surrounding waters. Just to share an example, in one instance, an unauthorized vessel was traveling from one end of the island to the other to visit a friend. He needed the Coast Guard's help to be towed back to shore because he ran out of fuel whilst traveling on the water. Yesterday, the Coast Guard continued to observe individuals fishing at various locations and using the beaches and the parks. Again, we are reminding you that any vessel or individual that is not authorized to be on the water will be redirected home and may, in certain cases, be dealt with by the Bermuda Police Service. The public should be reminded that under the Emergency Powers Shelter-in-Place regulations, you are not allowed to leave your home before 7 a.m. to attend any permitted business, including grocery stores, pharmacies, or gas stations. And you must be back at home by 7 p.m. All persons who previously received an exemption for frequent tasks that expires on April 18th, they will be extended until the 2nd of May. you do not have to reapply. But if you require a one-day permit or you have not applied previously to be on the roads, please visit the such as lumber, plastics, furniture, either on the ground or in a barrel. So we are taking this opportunity to remind you of the correct procedures for burning horticultural waste on your property. Number one, before starting your controlled burn, you should notify the Bermuda Fire and Rescue Service on 296-7559, and you should give the following information: your name, your address, a contact number, and the approximate duration of the controlled burn. Number two, ensure that the area where the burning is going to take place is a minimum of 10 feet away from any buildings, trees, or any other combustible materials. Number three, a garden hose or any other means of completely extinguishing the fire or the controlled burn should be readily available. Number four, the control burn should be constantly monitored. 5, upon completion, the control burn should be fully extinguished